So, you know, once you get into your course shell, you by default are always taken to your, you know, homepage or, you know, the page where you will see all your announcements. Shannon has a question about where you got the textbook, Emmy. So, you know, this, I'm actually in teacher mode. Let me change this to student mode so it would look a little bit like what you guys see. So just keep in mind, I will be posting regular announcements on your course shell. So, you know, this is a great place to come and see if there are any updates about your course, you know, what kind of things I have put in there. I'm sure if you guys have taken other classes at Ames, then you might be familiar with some of these, you know, features that are available. But remember, you can email your classmates, you can email me, you can email Miss Marina through the class list option over here. So you can see, you know, it lists all the students' names, my name, and Miss Marina's name. So we have, you know, all that information here. For the most part, you know, you guys are going to be looking under content. And, you know, on the left-hand side, once you get to this content page, you will see you have your table of contents, but then it lists all the other items that are available. So if you have not, guys, again, I want you to go to your course information, you know, the start here module, and look at all the different information that is available to you. So you have your, you know, getting started, what are basically the first few things you have to take care of. You've got your course syllabus in here, you know, course schedule. Here are the links for our Zoom classroom meetings. And I've also put a link for my office hours. So I have office hours every day, Monday through Thursday, from 1 to 2 p.m. If you can make it during that time, that would be great. But if you need to, you know, meet with me outside of that time, then we can make an appointment. Just kind of keep that in mind. Another thing I recommend you guys to do is to forward your D2L email to your, you know, ames.edu email address, which is your Gmail one. So that way you're not having to go to two different places to look for, you know, emails. All of them will come to one place. So that way you don't miss any emails. If you've not done that, that might be something you should look into. So there are other guidelines that might help you. I've included some information on math tutoring, if that is something you want to, you know, use and get help from. Another thing I want to point out is some of these other tools that are down here, tutorials. And I especially want to show you this last one here, which says additional technology tutorials. It's got some information on Zoom and your TechSmith Nomia. You know, Shannon was mentioning the Fuse app, so you can take a look at this over here. But then underneath that, you will see I have added some information on Excel, you know, how to create histograms, how to work with charts and graphs in Google Sheets. And I've also put a link for StatCrunch, because that is another software you have access through, you know, MyLab Statistics, which you can actually use to do calculations for this class. So you will find, you know, some really good videos and information on there that might come in handy as you're working through this class. So all of this information is available right here under course information, you know, start here tab. You've got, you know, Coach's Corner here. So Miss Marina has added some of her information. So you can see she's added her, you know, Zoom meeting room, email address, phone number that is available. So anytime you want to get in touch with Miss Marina, you have all of her information over here. So this is MyLab Statistics, which is where you guys are going to work on your, you know, homework assignment. So you can see the first link is that textbook link. So when you click on that, this is where Shannon, you said you were having trouble accessing it, right? Because it keeps telling you you have no subscription. So I am not sure why it does that, because you can see now that I'm clicking on it, and you know, it by default takes you to the beginning of your textbook when you click on it. And it looks exactly like your paper copy of the textbook pages. Now, if you go to your menu option on the left, click on that, you will be able to select the different chapters you are working on. So you can see chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, you know, chapter 4. So you will be able to access your chapter pages from here. But unfortunately, if you are in the textbook, you do have to exit out of the textbook to get into your homework. So, from your textbook, we cannot get into the homework section. So that's going to be, and again, I'm just going to click on content to go back. So that's going to be your Pearson eText, which is the top link here. Now, my suggestion to you is when you are going in and working on your homeworks, instead of going on the homework and quiz and test tab, you can go directly to this all assignments tab, because it shows you the entire listing of homework, quizzes, and exams all in one place. So you don't have to go to different locations. So you will see right now your chapter 1 homework, quizzes, and the exam are available. These little flags basically mean you have to try and get 90% on your homework sections before your quiz and exam will open up. And then you do have to email me to request your password for the exam. And this is what I was mentioning earlier. You can email me, you can email Miss Marina. She also has access to the passwords. So either one of us, just make sure you get your password. Don't wait till the last minute, guys. Because if we get busy and we're not able to email you back, then you are stuck with not being able to take your exam. So just please make sure, send it a couple days in advance, because eventually you will be taking your exam. So just send your email out. If you guys have used Pearson before, then you will be familiar with a lot of options that are available in Pearson. But if you have not, then I wanted to show you, you do have this question help on each problem. Now, these are, definitions and stuff, so you're not going to see, as much help in here as you would with some other examples. But just go to question help. You will see if it is, if they have a video for it, you can watch the video, which these are created by the author of the textbook. You can also see your textbook pages from your homework also, but the only difference is for the textbook pages, it's only going to show you section 1.1 textbook. It's not going to show you the entire textbook. It's only going to show it to you for this section. But, again, if you just wanted to quickly reference something, you can do that. You will see your StatCrunch option is available right here. So you can click on StatCrunch, and it looks a lot like Excel or Google Sheets, but then it's got different calculations that you can do underneath these menu options. So that helpful link that I was showing you under course information, you can try and find different help in there. And then you've got your calculator. Ask my instructor is a great option. It won't be instantaneous, but if you want to ask me a question about the problem you are working on, you are stuck, you're not sure how to move forward, you will see my email address is already there. So just type your message in, whatever trouble you are having, send it, and it comes to my email, and then I can take a look at it and see what's going on. So, just different options that are available to you through your homework in MyStatLab. Okay, so we'll leave that for now. So that's going to be under MyLab Statistics. Now, each week, these tabs are going to open up. So, we're working on week 1 right now. So you will see when you click on that, you have a whole list of the different activities that we are working on. As you go down, you will see this is, again, these are your Zoom links. So if you needed to, get to your Zoom class, you can do it from here also. This one is just kind of laying out, what we are going to be talking about today. Again, I've included a link for your Zoom classroom meeting in here. The second tab that you had is just your direct access to the Zoom link. Again, so you will see it actually has listed all the days that our meeting happens. Actually, March 18th is a holiday. I need to remove that. I forgot it was in there because that's our spring break. Yeah, Shannon, we are recording our Zoom session. So that way, if you needed to go back and look at some of the discussions we are having, you will be able to do that. So the first part is just about, our live meetings each week, what we will talk about, and your links to get to them. You will see there are reading and video assignments. in here, because again, this is just to show you, what sections we are going to be covering this week. So, of course, we are working on chapter 1. So I'm telling you which sections to read, and then I'm giving you the link for the textbook. I have created some handouts for my face-to-face classes. So I've actually included that also. So if you want to, look through that, again, just a little bit of a different information with some examples in there. There's actually even a sampling and bias activity handout here if you just wanted to get some extra practice with the different sampling techniques. So that might be something to look through. I've included some general information videos also for chapter 1. So, this kind of just gives you a general idea of statistics, sampling techniques, and just a little bit of a general overview information on statistics, because that's what your chapter 1 does. It introduces you to different concepts, different terminologies, those kind of things. So those videos would kind of give you a nice idea on that. And then at the bottom is where you will see are your activities. So we've got our discussion post, our M&M sampling activity, and then your end of week survey. So you will have surveys at the end of each week. They will be just, just to get an idea of how that week went and how the class is going, kind of thing. So, and each one of them has a start and an end date. So just make sure you're staying, in compliance with your deadlines, because once those close, you will not be able to submit anything. And this will be the general structure for each week. So each week we will have our interactive Zoom session. I'll have information in there, what we're going to be talking about. You've got your reading and video assignments, and then you will have your actual activities at the bottom, including the survey. And I was seeing some chat come through. So Shannon asked me about the recording. So yeah, I do record our Zoom sessions, and I will make them available in your course shell here in D2L. And then looks like Emmy and you guys were talking about where did they get the textbook from. So what I do is right underneath here where it says interactive sessions, week 1, I will actually put your Zoom recordings in this section. So right underneath this week 1 live weekly session, you will see a new link pop up for our class meeting, recording. So this is where I will be putting this recording from today's class. So this is where you will find that information. And I will open up your week 2 assignments. I think, Emmy, you were the one who emailed me that you prefer working over the weekends on your assignment. So you prefer if you can get that weekend to do things. So yeah, I can definitely do that and give you access to those. And feel free to work ahead. Working ahead is definitely not a problem. So that way, if you run into any issues, you have time to ask me questions about it and get, answers back in a timely manner. So that's your general structure for your course shell in D2L. So any questions, just kind of walking through your D2L and MyLab statistics. So some of you, like I said, are still not in MyLab statistics. Please make sure you, go in and access your homework. All of your assignments actually close on Monday instead of Sunday at midnight. And the reason for that is because, like I said, sometimes on weekends, I am not available. And so if you ask me any questions, you're having trouble, on homework or something, and if I'm not able to, then you're not able to, complete it, take your exam and that kind of thing. So that's why I keep my due dates for Monday. So that way, if you have any questions, I can, get back to you and still give you time to finish those. So this week's assignments are actually due on the 15th, which is a Monday, and not on the 14th, which is a Sunday. So just make sure you keep up with that deadline. Some of you have actually not made an initial post in the discussions for this week. So, if you're not in doing this in good time, you do lose points. You don't get points if you don't keep up with those deadlines. So please make sure you are keeping up, because, again, we're an 8-week class. We don't really have time for a lot of extensions and for, to keep pushing our assignments forward, because this is a statistics class. We do have topics that we need to cover. So we want to make sure that you're not working on older assignments while new assignments keep coming up. So those deadlines are really crucial. So please don't fall behind. And anytime you are having trouble, email Miss Marina, email Miss Me, because we will be talking to each other also, but reach out for help, because Miss Marina also has a lot of resources at her end that she can share with you and help you out. She in fact probably knows more resources than I do on campus. So don't hesitate to reach out to any one of us. If I don't know the answer, I will definitely find them out for you. Marina, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, if you just need any support with anything, I'm also available. And also Ms. Daruka, she's very helpful. Her syllabus is pretty straightforward, but she's very kind. So do reach out.
All right, awesome, guys. So if you don't have any questions, I just kind of wanted to walk you through a little bit through that sampling activity. So I am going to try sharing my document camera. I was testing it this morning, so hopefully it will work, because it did really well in the morning. Okay, there we go. So, I'm kind of treating these as our population, right? So whatever bags, whatever item you buy, this is our population. And the idea is we're choosing our sampling from this. So I want to ask you, especially for those of you who've already had a chance to look through the readings and the assignment this week, where would you kind of start with narrowing down your samples? And I had asked if you have your own population. So if you already bought your M&Ms or whatever you're deciding to using, feel free to go along with me, so that way you get a little bit of a hands-on experience as you're working. So when you're getting ready to submit your assignment, some of these things you've already had a chance to kind of work through and walk with me. So let's go ahead, open these guys. And my mom and I were in store the other day, and I had no idea how many different types of M&Ms there are. I was just astounded at the variety. I mean, you've got, the peanut ones have been there for a while, but these guys are, this is like fudge brownie. I had no idea there was fudge brownie. I went, for the regular milk chocolate, and then I saw fudge brownie. I was like, oh my God, I have to get fudge brownie. So apparently you have a wide variety that you can choose from, Are you telling me there are more than one type of Oreos, Shannon?
There are tons of different.
I don't eat Oreos, so I'm not familiar with that, but that's funny.
I am convinced that the reason they keep making these is because they just want us to go back to the original, but they're like every season, there's like lemonade ones, there's coconut ones, there's birthday cake. There are tons of Oreos.
Oh my God. So I am definitely out of touch of Oreos, because all I know is the traditional, Oreo cookie. Oh my God. I need to up my game on candy and cookies.
We'll have to send you an Oreo care package that has a little bit of each one of them in there.
So you can see, I mean, just look at the two different varieties I bought. These guys, of course, if you can tell, are bigger in size, right, than your regular M&M. So this is now our population. And, we want to get a good mix. So you can think of this as, representing different people in the, American population. You can think of these as being, two different teams, if you're kind of thinking in sports kind of aspect. So just whatever way you want to differentiate. And, of course, the reason I chose M&Ms, or you can do this with Skittles, is because each bag also has its own color variety, right? So it's not just about the size and the filling on the inside, but then you can also think of each color as representing something else. So how do you think we can go about selecting our sample? Because this is our population now. Both the bags together make our population. So if you wanted to do random sampling, which is one of those first sampling techniques you come across, how would we go about selecting this, in a random sample kind of way? Yes, you can mix the candies. definitely. So yeah, you can go ahead. And I'm using the spoon because if my mom wants to eat candy later, I don't want my hands touching it all over, because I don't think she would appreciate that. So yeah, you can go ahead and mix this, and this is, and you can honestly do this in a container like a bowl or something, so you can kind of shake it around if you want. Um, put it in a bag, Ziploc bag or something, and just kind of shake it around to get a good mix. But let's say this is our, population. Now, how are we going to select random sampling samples?
Would you just grab a spoonful?
You can grab a spoonful. Yeah, that would be one of those simplest ways to do it, because if you've read through random sampling, they talk about how you can arrange them. And if I had a bigger plate, I could probably lay them out flat. And they talk about using a random table. So you can use a random table where you pick a number. So if you have these kind of arranged, let's say I'll do it on this side. So let's imagine if you kind of put this, in a row, then you can use a random table. And let's say that random table, you pick the number 25. So you can go to the 25th candy, and you pick that out, and then you go to the random table again. And let's say this time it gives you the number 16. Then you would go to the 16th candy and you would pick that out. And you actually also have this amazing website. And I'm going to see if I can go back and share my screen with you. If you are not familiar, it's called random.org. So this can also actually help you come up with random numbers. So if you look at the right-hand side of this page over here, it's asking us to create a random number generator. So instead of going all the way to 100, maybe I'll just stick with 1 to 50, and I will say generate number. So you can see it gives me number 16. So, like I said, we would pick the 16th candy from our plate. I would do a random generator. Again, it gives me 43. So we can go pick the 43 candy on your table. So you can kind of see how you can use a random number generator. You can use a table that your textbook talks about. And I will try coming back to our camera over here. Nope. There we go. So yeah, and then, if it gives you like this at number 43, then you can go ahead and pick your 43rd. So that's one way of doing it. But that might take a little bit more time if you're having to generate a number, then come pick a candy. So like Shannon said, can you do a spoonful? What other ways could you try and get your sample if you were just doing random sampling here? So what other ideas are kind of going through your head for random sampling?
Can you get different people to pick some?
Great idea. Yeah. So if you have different people around the house, like I said, if you put it like in a Ziploc bag and get it mixed together, you can have somebody, just put their hand in and get a fistful out, right? Because you are not really controlling which candy comes in your hand. It's not like you're going and seeing, oh, which one has the perfect shape, right? Or which one has the perfect M on it. Because that would be biased, because now you're picking the perfect pieces, right? So that's not random. Random means you should have no control over the sample you are picking. So yeah, that's a great idea. So just, find different ways. And that is exactly what you are recording in that video that you will be creating. So you will kind of walk me through, like, how did you pick your random sample? Did you have somebody come pick it for you? And, you don't have to record other people. But, if you're having somebody else come and pick candy for you, just, you can just have their hand kind of showing you that they came and picked candy for you, or, whatever techniques you are using. So try different ways of working with the random sampling techniques to pick your sample size. And, try to pick a good sample size. At least you should have, maybe 20, 30 candies in there, depending on the size of your bag. So what's our next sampling technique? So we've got random. What can be the next sampling technique we can talk about?
Cluster.
Cluster. Alrighty, very good. So I'm actually gonna see if I can put this guy back in. Lost one. Okay, let's put these guys back in. So how would you create your clusters? Because cluster sampling is where, you know, you already have these groups. So if you again look at the example in your textbook, you know, your clusters can be based on area codes. Cluster can be based on, you know, people who have maybe similar interests, or, well, not really similar interests, because your clusters are basically characteristics that are being used to, you know, divide your population into groups. And then what do we do with cluster? How do you select your sampling from the cluster?
Well, you need to get like 4, 5, 6 bowls or whatever, depending on how you have them. If you had them right now, the way they are all mixed around totally, I guess you need like maybe 2 or 3 bowls because they're already mixed up. If you still had like one type on one side and one type on the other, you would need more bowls so that you would have a more diverse sampling. Otherwise, if you just had 2 different bowls and then you just picked one, you'd have all of one type.
Right, so you need to make sure you have enough clusters to pick your sample from. And then do you pick pieces out of each cluster in cluster sampling, or do we pick the entire bowl, the entire cluster?
After that, you would do a random sample of your cluster, of the one bowl. Like you could take one bowl and then randomly sample from that. But in order to make sure you're getting a good understanding, you better make sure that you have a good mixture of, I mean, you could take some from over here and some from over here, I guess.
Okay, so
What am
you
I
are
trying to
saying
say?
from each cluster, you are picking only a few out of that? Is that what you're saying? Yeah? So for the
Yes.
rest of you, do you will agree with what Emmy just said? Is that what cluster sampling does? Because there's two things
No, it
which
would
are
be
very
taking
similar.
every M&M in an entire bowl.
Go ahead, Tiffany, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Mr. Ruka. No, if you separated your M&Ms in separate bowls and we were using like an area code or a zip code as our selection, then you would pick one entire bowl, I believe is a cluster.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping one of you would say exactly. Because Emmy, what you're talking about is the
Is
stratified.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, stratified sampling. So I'm glad that we ran into this discussion because there are two sampling techniques which sound very similar, but then how you select your sample is different. So what Emmy was actually describing was your stratified sampling. So again, we create these groups, and honestly, for a stratified sampling, you can create groups on the shape, or how those M&Ms look on top of the candy, or whatever other technique. I'm trying not to give you too many ideas. It's hard not to give you too many ideas, but create your groups, right? Your groups based on what you choose them to be. And then in stratified, you actually pick random number of items from each group or each bowl. So you would pick some from the first bowl, some from the second bowl, some from the third bowl. So how many ever bowls you create in stratified, you pick something from each one of them. In cluster sampling, go ahead, Emmy.
Sorry. I actually have a question that relates directly to that. When you're picking in stratified from those, you're supposed to still pick those as a proportion of the ratio in the normal population, correct? Like you won't pick like 5 of each color. If there's like many more blues, you would have to pick more blues out of the blue one.
No, so again,
It's
that
not?
has
That's
to
what I
be
don't-
random. So even in stratified, when you separate your group, when you're choosing your items from each group, it still has to be random. So it does not matter if you have more blues in your sample. When you finally ended up with your sample, if you had more blues, well, then that's what your random sampling did for you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant like, let's say if you stratified them by color.
Okay.
And there just happened to be, do you pick the same number? Like, let's say, do you pick 5 out of each color? Or if there was just like, in your giant population, you just for whatever reason had a zillion blue M&Ms compared to everything else, would you have to pick more blue
No,
ones from
No,
the
so
one?
yeah, like you said, 5 out of
That's the thing that's
each
5
group.
out. It is?
Yeah. So how many ever you decide to pick from one group, that number will stay the same for all your groups. Yeah, because again, whatever your population is, if you have more blues in the population, it's not necessary that your sample should also have more blues. The idea is just make sure you're getting a good mix and everybody is being represented. So as Tiffany laid out for us, your cluster sampling, you're still breaking these up into groups, but your cluster sampling is where you actually pick the entire cluster. So you can pick 2 clusters, you can pick 1 cluster depending on your population size, but instead of picking some people from each group or some M&Ms from each group, you're taking the entire group. So, if you had a zip code, you would take everybody from that zip code or everybody from that area code. So that's where you kind of have to differentiate between, okay, if I was doing this as a stratified, how would I do it? If I was doing this as a cluster, how would I do it? So, if you were going to break this up by color, does that make sense for cluster sampling where you're picking the entire bowl as your sample size? Because then what happens is you're only picking 1 or 2 colors, right? The other colors get left behind. So then what other way could you create your clustering? Like I'm looking at this little M&M over here, and you can see he's not a very beautifully shaped M&M. He's actually missing half of his shell. So you can, kind of with your cluster, you can do, okay, some of these are perfect, some of these are kind of wonky looking, some of these are missing pieces. So you can make your clusters based on that. So just find your own way to create those clusters. So those are your cluster and stratified sampling. What other techniques do we have for sampling? Oh, you're on mute, Emmy.
Well, I forgot the name of it. The one where you're counting.
Systematic.
Yes, systematic. Thanks.
All right, very nice. So anyone want to explain what the systematic sampling does? Those of you who've had a chance to look through it, read through it. Jay, are you with us? I don't see you. Oh, there you are. So how does systematic sampling work?
I don't want to explain it wrong again.
But that's the process of learning, because that way you're finding out the difference, right? So it's okay, even if it's wrong, don't hesitate. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry. First, you choose a random number. Well, first of all, you line everything up like on a grid, or you line it all up in such a way that it's you can count them easily. So in a line or in a square shape or whatever. Then you choose a random number. Then you start from that number and you say, I'm going to have like every 25th M&M, or that's too many. How about like every 8th M&M from here? So like, let's say you start with the number 3 as your random number, then you count 8 from there and you take that one out, and then you count 8 from there and you take that one out, and you count 8 from there and you take that one out until you have the number that you decided previously that you wanted for that grouping.
Yeah, very nice. So this is actually where you do kind of have to get them in a little bit more of an organized way. You're kind of lining them up in a straight line, kind of like a grid or something. And in that case, when it comes to systematic sampling, you do actually have to kind of see, okay, how many total M&Ms do you have in your population? So, do a quick count of how many you have, and then you have to decide what your sample size needs to be. So, let's say we've got about, I don't know, we'll say about 100 M&Ms in here, and I want to pick 30 in my sample size. So what you have to do is you take your 100, divide by 30, and that will tell us, I think it's going to be 3.33333, I think, as our answer. So you can say I'm either going to pick every third or I'm going to pick every fourth M&M. And then, like you go, so you can start from this corner here, and we can say 1, 2, 3, 4. So every fourth, you take the fourth one out. Then you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's going to be your fourth one. Then you go 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's the reason why you have to kind of arrange these in a straight line or, in a grid. So then you have to do your systematic counting. So, the idea with systematic is, let's imagine we were manufacturing water bottles. And we wanted to test, are the water bottles watertight? Are they leaking water? Did they get the perfect dimensions that we wanted it to be? Whatever you wanted to test it for. So you can kind of do a systematic sampling in that, because you will say, I'm going to be selecting every 10th bottle that comes off the assembly line. Obviously you don't want to tell anybody that you are picking every 10th bottle, because that's where the bias would come in, right? Because if somebody knew that we're choosing every 10th bottle of the assembly line, well, they'll make sure that 10th bottle is going to be perfect, right? So this still has to be random. There's got to be a lot of factors included in there, but yeah, we can pick every 10th bottle and then test them to see, are they watertight? Did they meet the dimensions? Everything that we wanted to be was done correctly. That kind of thing. So that's where your systematic comes in. So yeah, you are picking every regular interval in your product. Now this number, like I said, the every 4th, every 8th candy that you will be picking, you actually have to calculate that number. So you need to know what's your total population size, what you want your sample size to be, and then based on that, you figure out which candy you are going to be going with. And then we have one last type of sampling that we normally talk about. Anybody remember what that one is?
Convenience sampling?
Very nice, Ashley. Convenience sampling. So how can we incorporate convenience sampling with our M&Ms example?
It's not based on randomness, so you could find like your favorite, pick out your favorite colors or the ones with the perfect M on it. Ways like
Yeah,
that.
exactly, because that's what convenience says, right? Or you can basically say, I saw the first handful of the candy, as you opened your bag, the first handful of candy that you got, that's what you went with. You didn't bother mixing it up. If you were doing, 2 different types of candies like I have over here, instead of, kind of like Shannon asked us, should we mix it? If you didn't mix it and, you saw how I had them separately, and if I just left them separate and I just picked the first handful I got, I probably would not have a whole lot of the other kind if I hadn't mixed these guys together. So yeah, convenient sampling can be just whatever you found was the easiest way to select your sampling. You went with your favorite color, maybe the perfect shape, the perfect M on each one of these, because some of them you will see they have like half an M printed and the other half just never got printed on it. So that would be your convenient sampling. So normally we talk about convenient sampling, let's say you wanted to just go outside in your community and ask people, and I'll go back to my Broncos example, you just wanted to ask them if they were a fan of our football team or not. So, you could go to a grocery store and just stand outside the door, right? One of those entrances, and people who are going in and out, you could just say, hey, do you like the Broncos? So that would be convenient sampling, because what's happening in that is you are not at other entrances of that store. So you're not getting every person who's going in and out of the grocery store. Secondly, you're going to be there at a specific time that is convenient for you, right? So maybe after school, maybe on the weekends when you have time. So that means you are not really talking to people who shop at other times or on different days than you went in there. So that's kind of what you think about when you're thinking about convenient sampling, like, or maybe you could just put a Facebook post and say, hey, how many of you like the Broncos? And, you'll get answers from your friends. So think about this. Our friends, for most part, are going to be people who have similar, hobbies as us, maybe similar, if you guys went to school together, if you grew up in the same neighborhood, so if we have a lot of those commonalities with our friends, then, a lot of times their responses are going to be what we already expected it to be. But, when you go out into the general population and try to gather information, sometimes it's going to be a lot different, because, you may run into people who really are not fans of Broncos. And, it was kind of funny when I first moved to Colorado, Broncos was playing really bad. So I was just joking around with people like, they're such a horrible team. So everybody on campus was like, don't even talk to us anymore, because you cannot say that about the Broncos. I mean, literally, we were losing every single game that first year that I moved here. And I was like, why do people like this team? But, obviously, we have won a Super Bowl, so we are a good team. We just were not having a great season that year. So, obviously, you're going to have people with different ideas if you go beyond your family and friends as a group. So think about those, when you're going through these sampling techniques. So does this kind of help you guys out in terms of what I want you to do for this assignment? Any questions coming to mind based on that, guys?
I am struggling a little bit with like the section 1.3. So if we have time or if I can shoot you an email, I'm trying to do the homework and I have it written down to talk to you about, and it is about the sampling, but it's the numbers. Like on the homework, I could not, I watched the video, I read it, I have all of my notes, and I had no freaking clue what they were asking me with the numbers. Like I almost cried, I just shut my computer and I left. I'm not even kidding.
Oh, no, don't do that. Don't let statistics make you cry. That's not what we want you to do. But Shannon, we can talk about that. If you want to stay back after class, I can help
Okay.
you with that.
Okay, thank
So
you.
any other questions coming to mind, guys? Alrighty, so if you don't have any other questions, I am really looking forward to working with you this semester. Again, I will say this, do not hesitate to ask for help and to reach out anytime you struggle, because this is a fast-paced class, so there will be some things that happen unexpected. So if you keep me in the loop, I am able to work with you and offer you help and, suggestions, show you resources that we have on campus. So please, just keep me posted with anything that happens with you and you need help with. So good luck, guys, for this week. Don't forget to send me an email requesting your password, and I will see you guys next week if I don't see you any sooner than that. Sorry, not next week. I keep saying that. We have spring break next week, the week after.
I have a question about that because I don't know, just because I'm trying to understand what so next week we have assignments, or the assignments are for the week after that? Like,
Yeah.
Is that a whole week of work and then our next week after that the whole week of work, or is the next week of work for 2 weeks?
Yeah, that really got my brain all knotted up also. So I will open up your assignments for week of the 22nd, but nothing is due next week because technically we are in spring break next week. But if you want to go ahead and work on those assignments and get it out of the way, you're welcome to do that. But I am taking a technology break next week, so I will literally not be turning on a computer. I will probably turn off my notifications on my phone also. So I apologize, guys, but I am not keeping in touch with technology next week. I really just need to take some time and forget about everything else and, probably just sleep for the entire week. So email me if I will probably not follow my own plans, but if you have questions, email me. But if I don't email you back, I apologize. I will email you back when we come back on the 22nd. So officially nothing is due next week except this week's assignments, which are due on Monday the 15th. So remember, this week's assignments are still due, but then I will give you officially the next assignment will be due on the week of 22nd, which is when we come back from spring break. So yeah, I know, Emmy, it's kind of funky trying to think about nothing is happening next week. And it's funny that we go into week 1 of classes and then we go on spring break, but that's just kind of how this semester ended up breaking apart for us. So yeah, officially no assignments are due next week. Okay, anything else coming to mind? All right, everyone, be careful, stay safe, and I will see you the week of 22nd. So be careful, guys. Bye, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye. All righty, Shannon, if you want to go ahead and ask me.
Okay, so for what I have.